You've been told that writing is all about discipline, reading more books, and showing, not telling. But here's the truth. None of that matters if you're still doing these 7 dumb habits that almost every writer falls victim to. And you're probably doing it without even realizing. They don't just slow you down, they wreck your writing. They kill your momentum. And worst of all, they make you think you're not good enough, when in reality, it's just these fixable habits that are actually holding you back. So let's break them down. The first one is editing while you write. This is the #1 way writers get stuck and stay stuck. They get 2 paragraphs in, then go back and tweak every single word. Hours go by and they've written 300 words maximum. And the problem is you're trying to draft and judge at the same time. That's like sprinting and critiquing your running for mid-stride. So the solution to this is to draft first and edit much later. And to keep the flow, what you want to use are placeholders. So things like insert description, fix this later, terrible dialogue, fix later, right? Your main job is to finish first, and perfection can come at a later date. The best way to approach editing is with a professional editor. If you click on the links in the description down below, you can get in touch with us and we can pair you with professional editors that will polish your work to perfection. The next dumb mistake is never rereading your work. Some writers just keep charging ahead without ever rereading what they've actually written. But this habit will lead to major continuity issues, such as plot holes, inconsistent tone. It's like trying to build a Lego tower blindfolded. You have no idea if you have a solid foundation. The way to fix this is every few writing sessions, reread the last 2 or 3 pages you wrote, not to edit, but to re-familiarize yourself. That quick refresh gives your next scene purpose and direction. And a bonus tip here is, of course, reading it out loud is going to help you spot awkward pacing or clunky phrasing. And of course, something that's really important to note here is that you want to let it breathe before you do this. The first mistake I mentioned was, of course, trying to edit while you go. And then this second mistake is just not rereading what you've written. But the key distinction is that you need space between these 2 things. So you need to let it breathe before you do this. The next mistake is ignoring structure. There's this myth that structure kills creativity, that if you follow an outline or story framework, your work will be robotic. But the truth is, structure actually frees your creativity. It gives your ideas something to hang onto. Without structure, your story becomes a shapeless blob of good intentions. But with structure, you can break rules on purpose, and that's when the magic happens. So if you're new to structure, what you want to do is start simple. You want a beginning with a setup, you want a middle with conflict and escalation, and an end with resolution. Even that basic structure is 100 times better than none. And if you're not already signed up to the best writing email newsletter in the world, well then again, the link is in the description down below. The next big mistake is comparing your rough draft to someone else's final draft. This is the fastest path I've seen to burnout. You read a best-selling novel, then look at your messy draft and think, I'm rubbish, I'm never going to achieve this. But you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, very much like Instagram. Their polished masterpiece has been through dozens of edits, and your first draft isn't meant to shine, it's just meant to exist. And the fix to this is celebrate finishing. Don't celebrate perfection, because once you finish, you can shape it, but you can't shape a blank page, which is advice we always have to give. The next mistake is thinking every writing session must be productive. And this one is a bit sneaky. You sit down to write, but it's just not flowing. So you stare at the screen, you pace, maybe you jot a sentence down, delete it, and then you say, I'm just wasting time here. But that's part of the process. Thinking, pausing, daydreaming, it's all writing adjacent work. Some sessions are for breakthroughs, some are just to keep the wheels turning. If you show up, you're winning, even on the slow days. The next mistake is waiting to feel inspired before you write. And this one feels harmless. It even sounds artistic. I write when inspiration strikes. But the big problem with this is that waiting for inspiration teaches your brain that writing is optional. You're basically giving your brain permission not to show up. Inspiration is a byproduct of momentum, and momentum only happens when you write consistently, whether you feel like it or not. So what should you do instead? Well, set tiny, non-negotiable daily writing goals. 10 minutes, 100 words, whatever you can realistically hit. The goal isn't that every time you sit down and write absolutely amazing bits for your story, is to teach your brain that showing up comes first. And once you start doing this, that spark will almost always follow. This isn't just theory. This tactic shows up in all of the most prolific and successful writers. They treat it as a job, showing up on the good and the bad days to craft their masterpiece. Another big mistake is writing without a plan. This is what leads to a 60,000 word manuscript that has no ending. You start strong, then drift, then stall, and then quit. And because writing without a plan is like building a house without a blueprint, you might have great walls and a cool kitchen, but suddenly there's no roof or no hallway and no flow. This doesn't mean you need a 30-page outline. You just need to ask yourself 3 things before every session. What happens in this scene or chapter? Why does this scene or chapter matter? And how does it move the story forward? And really, that's it. That's your plan. Most writers don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they stack these habits until writing ultimately feels impossible. So drop even one of them, and your writing is going to feel so much lighter, so much more fun, and hopefully a lot more you. So let me know in the comments down below which one of these bad writing habits you are going to ditch today. Leave a comment if this helped, and YouTube will now be recommending another one of my value-packed writing videos right here. So go ahead and watch this one up next.